Welcome back, guys. In this video, we will be seeing what is the oxidative phosphorylation that is happening in our body. So, oxidative phosphorylation is basically, from the terminology itself, we can say that both oxidation and phosphorylation happen together. So, these two steps are coupled together. The oxidation means loss of electrons. Loss of electrons is generally called as oxidation. In this process, the electrons from the reduced coenzymes are transferred to oxygen to produce water. This is the oxidative part. But in the phosphorylation part, ADP, which is a dipeptide, a inorganic phosphate is added, and that will produce ATP. These two procedures are coupled together. So the energy released in this process, the chemical energy in this process will be used as the electrical energy there in the process will be electrical energy here will be transformed into chemical energy through ATP. So in this video we will be seeing about the biological oxidation, the electron transport chain oxidation, organization, shuttles and complexes, flow of electrons and the mechanism of ATP synthesis. So first of all, when we try to see the structure of the mitochondria, the outer membrane is freely permeable. Outer membrane is free, but the inner membrane is not very permeable. So the NADH, if you try to learn about the glycolysis pathway, we will see a video about glycolysis. There NADH will be produced. That NADH cannot pass through the inner membrane. So there has to be specific mechanism for the NADH to transport. This is achieved through the malate aspartate shuttle. Malate aspartate shuttle is achieved through two enzymes, which is malate dehydrogenase and aspartate aminotransferase. So these two enzymes work together to transfer the NADH produced in the cytosol to enter into the into the matrix. This is the matrix part of the mitochondria. Here is the intermembranous space between the outer and the inner membrane. So this will transfer to NADH into the matrix, into the mitochondria. There is another shuttle also, which we will see that is the glycerol 3-phosphate shuttle. This shuttle is achieved such that it is having a FAD as in its structure. So the enzyme FAD is present in the dehydrogenase complex. This dehydrogenase complex will transfer the electrons from NADH. From NADH electrons are transferred to FAD, and this will be transformed as FADH2. FAD accepts the electrons and will transform as FADH2. So NADH to be entered, it will pass through the malate aspartate shuttle, and FADH2 will pass through the glycerol 3-phosphate shuttle. After that, the organization. The electron transport chain is organized in such a way that it has 4 complexes, actually 5 complexes if you want to see. It has 5 complexes, and apart from that, 2 electron carriers. These 5 complexes are named as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 2 electron carriers are coenzyme Q and cytochrome C. These all together work to transfer one electron from one complex to another, so that it will finally lead to accumulation of protons, from which energy can be released, and also to transfer these electrons to the oxygen to produce water. So, and finally, we will see how electrons are transferred. If you try to look into this diagram, we have complex 1, complex 2, we have complex 1 here, complex 2 here, complex 3, this is called as the complex 3, and this is the complex 4, and also 2 electron carriers, which is called as the cytochrome. This is the complex 1, this is the complex 2, this is complex 3, complex 4, and apart from the 2 electron carriers, coenzyme Q and cytochrome C, and finally we will call this as the complex 5, but this is actually not a complex as such. It is called as ATP synthase. So first of all, once the NADH is entered into the matrix, NADH will transfer in complex 1. in complex 1, NADH will transform itself into NAD plus and with release of H plus and electrons. It will release NAD plus proton and 2 electrons. This electron will pass through complex 1 and will be transferred to coenzyme Q. But the pathway is that from the NAD, the electrons will be transferred to FMN. From FMN, iron sulfate complexes, and finally to coenzyme Q. FMN will accept then, and this will get reduced to FMNH2. From the FMNH2, electrons will reach iron sulfur complex. From the oxidized state, it will go to reduced state, and again it will go from reduced state to oxidized state by losing electrons to coenzyme Q. This is the process in complex 1. It is that only NADH will enter the electron transport chain at complex 1, and when this happens, when the electrons are released from it, and also protons as electrons are released, electrons will be moved towards complex 1, and this movement of electron towards the complex 1 will activate it and push the protons towards the matrix, towards the intermembranous space. So as these electrons are accepted by the complex 1, hydrogen ions which is released here, you can see there is a hydrogen ion released. This will be pumped back. H plus will be pumped through the complex 1. There is a pore in it. The complex will pump the H plus, which is present here, towards the outside. So this will pump the protons into the space between the two membranes, and in this procedure there is an energy release which is equal to 12 kilocalories. That is enough for pumping out 4 H plus. So electrons are accepted by the complex 1. The complex 1 not as such accept, it is just passing on the electrons to the next structure, and in this way it gets activated, and this activation will help transport 4 protons to the outside of this membrane, from the matrix to the inner membrane spaces. The complex 2. Now coming to complex 2. Complex 2 is a complex for FADH specifically. It is not used by NADH. FADH2 alone from the glycerol 3-phosphate shuttle will enter ETC through the second complex, and this will the energy. There is also release of electrons. So FADH2 will become FAD plus 2H plus 2 electrons. There is also release of energy, but this energy is not sufficient for pumping of protons. So the energy is released, but this energy is not sufficient for release of protons. The complex 1 will you can call it as NADH CoQ reductase, and this complex is called as succinate Q reductase. This is based on the enzymes that are present in it, because the complex 1 has NADH dehydrogenase complex, and the complex 2 is the succinate dehydrogenase complex. So in this process, complex, the electrons flow is from succinate. Succinate will transfer the electrons to FADH2. FADH2 will become FAD, and this electron will be passed on to iron sulfur complexes. From the iron sulfur complexes, it will be passed on through cytochrome B560 cytochrome that is present, and from that finally to again coenzyme Q. If you can observe, coenzyme Q to coenzyme Q complex 1 as well as complex 2, both of these complexes are transferring its electron to coenzyme Q. So these complexes are taking up the electrons from the substrate reduced coenzymes, that is NADH and FADH2, and it is passing on to coenzyme Q. We will see what is special about this coenzyme Q, because coenzyme Q, if you see it, coenzyme Q is a quinone derivative. It is having an isoprenoid tail. Isoprenoid tails are hydrophobic, that is they are lipophilic. As these cell membranes are lipophilic, they are made up of lipids. These will easily these are easily mobile. They will move across the membranes easily, so they can act as the electron carriers. These electron carriers will diffuse through the hydrophobic core of the membrane, and in this way it can carry two electrons. One coenzyme Q can carry two electrons. So this way coenzyme Q can transfer the electrons from one or two complexes, and from coenzyme Q the electrons will now reach complex 3. Complex 3 is basically a cytochrome reductase complex. In cytochrome reductase, it is having basically two cytochromes, cytochrome B and cytochrome C1. Both of these are contains heme as the prosthetic group. In this again, electrons are transferred as complex 3 takes up electron. When electrons are added, it will be charged or activated, and this activation will cause H plus pump. And when this H plus pump, again the pump hydrogens, protons that are present in the matrix will be pumped across the inner mitochondrial membrane to the intermembrane space. So again, this will also pump protons. How many protons are pumped out? Calculations show that 4 protons are pumped out, because the release is about minus 10 kilocalorie per mole. Again here 4 protons are released. From complex 1 4 protons was pumped out, but complex 2 there was no sufficient energy for pumping out. And now from the coenzyme in the cytocomplex 3, the flow of electron is such that when coenzyme Q, it was originally just called as Q, but after getting reduced it will accept the electrons and it will be called as the QH2, and now this QH2 will transfer the electrons to the complex 3 through iron sulfur complexes, cytochrome B, cytochrome C1, and finally to cytochrome C. Now C is again an electron carrier. So again the complex 3 is duty is just to receive the electrons from the first carrier, that is coenzyme Q. It will transfer it to the next electron carrier, cytochrome C. Cytochrome C is again a peripheral membrane protein, having one heme as the prosthetic group. It receive electrons from the third complex. It will reach the C and it will pass on the electrons to the fourth complex. Coenzyme Q was an electron carrier carrying 2 electrons. Each coenzyme Q was carrying 2 electrons. But this cytochrome C is a single electron carrier. It can carry only 1 electron at a time. And also this is also transferring. Its duty is to transfer the electrons to the complex 4. So coenzyme Q, 2 electron transport to 2 cytochrome C, because to accept 2 electrons there are 2 cytochrome C is required. So now from cytochrome C the electrons are reaching complex 4. I will show it in the diagram. From complex 1, electrons jumped towards a different color. Electrons jumped towards the coenzyme Q. Similarly, electrons here also from FADH2, it jumped towards coenzyme Q. From the coenzyme Q, it was transferred to complex 3. From complex 3 to cytochrome C. Cytochrome C is again an electron carrier or electron transporter. From cytochrome C, now it has reached to coenzyme 4. We will again discuss it here. From cytochrome 4 is also called as the cytochrome oxidase. And it is in this stage when the electrons that are received from the cytochrome C is used to, it is accepted by the oxygen to produce water. So finally O2 is the electron acceptor. So this cytochrome oxidase is a complex containing 2 cytochrome A, cytochrome A3, and it also has 3 copper ions. The cytochrome A and cytochrome 3, they function as a single protein and are generally referred to as A3 cytochromes. This cytochrome, four cytochromes will bring about 4 electrons, will carry 4 electrons to complex 4. Here we will see how each of these 4 electrons are used upon. First electron will be used to convert copper ions that are in the complex 2 copper. From the 2 plus state, it will be converted into 1 plus state. The first electron is now used to convert the cupric ions to cuprous ion. The first 2 plus state of the copper ion is called as a cupric. The 1 plus state is called as the cuprous. Now the second electron is used when the heme A3. The heme A3 is the ion in the heme A3. As I just said, the cytochrome is containing heme prosthetic groove in it. This ion will be converted to from Fe3 plus state, it will be converted to Fe2 plus state. And from the hemoglobin lesson, from the binding of oxygen by hemoglobin, this Fe2 plus will bind oxygen. So this will pick up the oxygen. And now the third and fourth electrons, how are they used? So when there is a very close proximity between this oxygen which we took and this copper B, there is formation of peroxide bridge. Peroxide bridge is formed between the copper and the oxygen. The heme A3, and between the heme A3 and the copper B, there is a peroxide bridge between that is forming. So to avoid this, there are 2 electrons that is needed to break the peroxide bridge. So first electron is used in converting cupric ions to cuprous. The second is used in converting ferric to ferrous. This ferrous state will bind oxygen. And lastly, the third and fourth electrons are used up in breaking the peroxide bridge. So at last, 4 protons will be used. 4 protons are being used, and here the Fe2 plus is the electron transfer is such that the cytochrome C was bringing in the electrons. From cytochrome C, there are actually 3 copper ions. The 3 copper ions can be of 2 types, copper A type and copper B type. The copper A, copper B type differentiation is such that the copper A will accept electrons from heme A and the copper B will accept electrons from heme A3. So now the complex copper A, it is transferred to copper A. From copper A, cytochrome A, then cytochrome A3, and then finally copper B. So the end effect is such that actually the electrons are transferred from cytochrome C towards copper B, and also the electrons oxygen finally takes up the electrons. For O2, 4H plus is needed, and this will be forming 2H2O, and the electrons will be finally transmitted to the cytochrome complex itself. So the oxygen will take up I will show you clearly. There is oxygen, 4H plus and 4 electrons. This was the 4 electrons I was talking about. It has to take in 4 electrons, and the 4 electrons will be used in forming 2H2O molecules. So the electron transfer is accepted finally by this oxygen to form the water molecules. We see that out of the 4 complexes, it is just that complex 1, complex 3 and complex 4 has the ability to pump H plus ions across. Complex 2 doesn't have the energy to pump H plus across. So the hydrogen transport is such that the 4th complex will pump 2 hydrogen. So the hydrogen pump is the first complex will pump 4 hydrogen, second complex will pump 4 hydrogen 4 protons, and the last complex 1, complex 3 and complex 4. The complex 4 will pump 4 protons. Totally 10 protons are pumped out across the membrane. And now, because there is a huge transfer of pumping of protons across the membrane, there is so much accumulation of, if we assume this is the membrane, this is the matrix, membrane, H plus is H plus from here is pumped towards here. There are actually for each NADH there is actually 10 protons that is being pumped out. So you can imagine how many protons will be beginning to accumulate on this side. So this due to the so many high concentration of protons on this side, there will be elevation in the electrochemical potential. Electrochemical potential will rise on this side. So, and this electrochemical potential will be is a high energy point. This electrochemical potential, if you remember from the high school, it is actually energy, and this energy is used to drive pump this hydrogen back by releasing energy, and this energy is used up in converting ADP to ATP. So this accumulation of hydrogen is released, accumulation is demolished or relieved by pumping the protons back into the matrix. But this matrix, this pumping is not through the direct membrane. There is a special complex called as the complex phi or the ATP synthase. ATP synthase will be like just like a lollipop, because it will be having this F1 particle that is protruding into the matrix. This is called as F1 particle, and this will be looking like a cylinder that is transversing the membrane. This is called as the F1 particle, and this is the F0 particle. This is the F1 particle. So the F0 is called as F0O, because that is a O, because it is inhibited by oligomycin. And this will transfer the protons through from the intermembrane space into the matrix. So there is accumulation is relieved by passing the protons through this FO unit, and this F1 unit on the other hand has the catalytic property. This is this was a transporter unit, but this is a catalytic unit. The energy released will be used to convert ADP to ATP. So there is a mechanism for synthesizing of ATP synthesis. This is called as the binding change mechanism, which was proposed by Paul Boyer. So this states that the F1 actually has two subunits, which are called as the alpha subunit and the beta subunit. The alpha subunit doesn't have any important role here, but it is alpha chain just has the property to bind ATP or ADP. ATP binding role alone is there, but on the other hand, beta chains have the property to be acting as the catalytic site. These are the catalytic site where the formation of ATP is happening. So this beta subunit will actually exist in 3 states. It could be in the O state, or in the L state, or in the T state. The O state is when there is no binding of substrate. There is no binding. There is no binding of substrates. But on the other hand, L state and T state, there is a loose binding. You can remember it by L, and here the tight binding. Apart from tight binding, there is also this catalytic property. It is only in this T state where the catalytic property is seen. So there is an analogy which is given when the protons are pumped through the F0 particle. It will turn if you see the water driven hammer, this flow will create energy that could be used to produce ATP. There is a sequence of events that is happening in here. So at the zero state, at the O state, there is no binding. Let's say take ATP synthase and imagine it will be in the L binding state. First stage it will be L binding. In the L binding state, ADP as well as PI will bind together. So at this point there is just a loose binding between ADP and inorganic phosphate. But now as the L state is getting transformed towards the T state, that is this transformation is the changes in the conformation is happening because of the pumping back of protons. This pumping back is causing the conformation changes. This will create the tight binding as well as stimulate the catalytic property. So when the units are in the T state, the ATP T state will convert ADP to ATP, and after this, after release to have to release the ATP, it is again going back to from T state to L state. Here ATP is released. As you can see, during the 0 O state, there is no affinity for the substrate. So at this point, the substrates are released. So the T state reverts to O state when ATP is released. Again, from the O, it has to turn back into the L state for further process. And after this, after it has reached the L state, it will take up this. Again, the ADP and inorganic phosphate is accepted, and all this happens. So there are two procedures happening in the oxidative phosphorylation. First of all, the oxidation. The oxidation is happening to NADH and FADH2. FADH2 and NADH2 oxidize, they lose their electrons, and the electrons gets transported through different complexes of the electron transport chain, and at the complex 4, it is taken up, the electrons are taken up by oxygen, and this electron is used to produce water. But on the other hand, because as on the way, there is a pumping of proton when there is a release of energy. So when the complexes take up the electron, they get activated, and the pumping of protons to the intermembrane space is seen. So at this stage, there will be huge accumulation of protons in the space, and this accumulation is relieved by transversing the protons back to the matrix through the ATP synthase. But this process will create energy, and that energy is used to produce ATP from ADP. So the end product of this oxidative phosphorylation is production of ATP. Thank you.